development, feasibility study. So as we go through the presentation, and those programs were brought on the East Lycoming campus. So we have 3 programs in the main building. We have 3 programs in Hughesville High School in the furthest wing, and we have 1 program at Ashtar Elementary School, early childhood. So we're on the campus, but we're in 3 different buildings. But it's central to all of our member districts, as you can see listed there. Benton just joined as a member district last summer. Our operating budget cost is just $2.5 million, or just over $2 million there. Current cost per student was $59.39. And we do rely on grant funding to make some things happen with equipment, our staffing, our certification, professional development. As you know, we're a shared time CTC, so I say that's the best of both worlds for our students. They're still a Montoursville High School student, but they're also a likely CTC student. So we see Montoursville students in the afternoon. They have their academics here in the morning and their lunch, and then they're over for 2 hours a day for their career tech ed program. We're a 3-year program. Right, so we hope to have students come in their sophomore year and stay with us for 3 years and finish that program. But students can enter at any time in that high school, just they have to be at least in 10th grade. And we do have to meet the number of hours or minutes required by PDE for CPC programs, which is 2 hours a day. So logistically, there's a lot that goes into that to make sure that your students are getting their classes here that they need for graduation, but then also that we have them for the seat time we need, and then have them back for dismissal for extracurricular activities after. But it's a great setup for students, again, best of both worlds. Quickly, our goals established in 23, these are our comprehensive plan goals. It's real simple. We want to prepare students for the industry. We want to have them certified, credentialed to be able to go into the workforce and be employed and start earning money right out of high school. We want to increase the number of students who participate in internships, cooperative education programs. So as a senior in their 2nd or 3rd year, they've completed most of their program, we can get students right out into the job. Instead of coming to LICO for those 2 hours, they can go right to the workforce. We have about 17 students out right now in a variety of programs. You'll see a slide later, but they're out, they're earning money, they're working for those 2 hours, and then a lot of them stay and work into the evening. So it's a great opportunity to get that experience. We want to increase our NOCTI achievement scores, kind of like our measure. It's a national exam specific to that program. The automotive has their own test, and each of our programs has their own assessment. And then finally, we want to make sure our students are career ready, identifying a career goal, developing a career plan, working with your counselors and your administration to make sure that. A little bit about where we're at with our achievement indicators. So this is last year, 75% of our students earned a credential. I would say right now this year, we are probably close to 100%. All of our students are going to have OSHA certification, general workplace certification, with them, many other specific program certifications. Our NOCTI scores have been at least in the 80s or higher. over time, and our cooperative education placements that have gone up to 17% of our teachers currently are in the work-based learning experience. So again, thinking about our programs and where we're going for the future, we need to also see where do our students go when they graduate. So looking at a 5-year average of these kind of indicators, we know our students are going to go in 3 places. They're going to go to work, they're going to go to the military, they're going to go for further education. And so you look at that, we are putting students out into the workforce at about 40% of our seniors on average. Class of 85 students. So 47% are also going on to further education at some type of post-secondary, 2-year or 4-year program. And then about 10% goes to the military. And the last 2, we're trying to always look for places to keep our students local. Right? We want to try to feed that workforce so our students are staying close by. All right, moving into some program information, and just the facility there on the left, you can see we're a small organization, 9 teachers, 10 professional staff, having to work with the development coordinator, but 7 teachers, 9 teachers, 7 programs. Okay. Our contracted services include business and technology and our nurse service. So we don't have those resources employed by the school, but they're contracted out through the recycling schools. But there are program enrollment numbers. Those are current numbers from the beginning of the year. Our current enrollment actually is a little bit less than 310 to 306 today. So you can get an idea of our enrollment. This is the total number of students in each of those classes. So as you go down through computer technology, for example, they have a morning class and an afternoon class. So on average, you have about 12 students. The automotive technology has 2 instructors, so 88, and health careers also have 2 instructors. Every other program has 1 instructor, give either 2 or 3 classes a day. And if you have any questions, please just jump in. I want to keep it moving for you, but if you have questions now or later. So enrollment trend, career and tech ed is growing across the Commonwealth, and certainly in our area, and LICO say the same. You can see the 5 years we've continued to increase little by little. Currently 311 is where we're at the beginning of the year. And as you're going to see in the next couple of slides, we don't have the capacity in space to bring in all the students who sign up for a program. So historically, automotive, construction, criminal justice, and culinary, those classes have been what we would call maxed out or full. You'll see based on space. And this year alone, we had 20 students who wanted to get into one of those programs that could not. So they were put on a wait list. And if slots would open up, the kids would move, the kids would leave, and the high school would pull them back, then we would put the students into those classes. So that's something new. We're starting to see that wait list number up here, but students are not able to get the grade like that. So in February 22, a couple months into the position here at LICO, we had a scheduled audit from the state. These audits are very informative for a new director, kind of give you an idea of the programs and some things you need to work on. So they had a few commendations that I need to share. We have a LICO types preschool program that happens in our early childhood education class. So 3 days a week, we have real 3, 4-year-olds, toddlers in our programs. Our students are learning how to teach, develop lessons, work with toddlers for 2 hours a day. And we have 2 groups of students that come and go. So that was a great thing to see, and that's been happening for a number of years. You're going to see community involvement. You're going to see involvement of our students into the community and community programs, and how our staff are using the space. So those are the areas that the state said you guys are doing a nice job with this. So just some photos to back that up and try to put some context to what you're hearing. So this is our preschool program. The photos on the left are the toddlers with their high school teachers in our culinary arts program. So they're up in culinary. This is right before one of the holidays, working on some Christmas cookies, but you know, you get to see that experience. These toddlers are getting that experience in our class. Our high school students are learning how to interact with those toddlers. On the right, our health career students went down to Ashfire Elementary School, and they're teaching a lesson on proper hygiene and hand washing. You get to see that outreach, that connection. Our construction trades class up here at the top, they are often asked if they can do projects for community organizations. So they resurfaced some Little League bleachers and benches. Down on the bottom right, we have students just like any other high school student. They contributed and helped create a 5K and volunteer for that in their community. And on the left, we have community outreach coming in from criminal justice. These are driving simulators, equipment and technology that we wouldn't have in our hands, but come in and kind of work with our students and our teachers for safe driving. Our cafe, Lego Cafe. So years ago, we were open multiple days a week. Now we're slowly starting to reopen. See some smiles at the table there. So
They're all looking at me.
You guys smiling in our
Yes.
face, and you too, that meetings.
I brag about your culinary program.
So this kind of brings it full circle for our students. They're learning the skills in culinary and they have a program, a curriculum to follow, but they get to put it into action. So here they are, they're doing the soft skills, interacting with the customers and clearing tables and so from beginning to end, the Lego Cafe is a great experience for everybody. And I mentioned our co-op partnerships, and these are all businesses and organizations that our students are currently working at. And some of these have historically always taken students. So it's a great chance for them to get their foot in the door in an area, in their field, and we hope that they stay in that. And then use the space. The last, thing they said in their audit was a positive. So this is construction. This is outside of the construction shop lab area between Hughesville High School and the Lego building. So if you've ever been down for an event in the Hughesville Stadium, it's right behind the football stadium there. We have the garage, we have a gravel area. Construction class said we need for and create a concrete pad because part of the curriculum is masonry. So as you're going to see in the next photo, yes, you can pour a concrete pad. So that was last spring. This fall, when it's time to lay block and work on that unit, instead of being in the lab space, they're outside. They can spread out. They can build their walls and work on their masonry skills. So use of space, being creative. Looking at our hallways, there's also our lobby. You can see this is our main entrance, our main foyer coming in the building. It's nothing to have 4 or 5 times a month. Either any of the military there, schools come in, set up, community looking to do job fairs and share information. We're in the front lobby, which is also our main corridor. You can see the students coming down the hallway. Criminal justice, you're going to see in the next slide a picture of the classroom. They go out, they need to do their hands-on activities. They're doing some sobriety checks and commands like that. So they're out in the hallway here, spreading out. Classroom. You'll see here in the next slide. But the other side of this, the study really brought light, and we've been working on this for about a year, is the limitations we have in space. So they really said, well, you guys need to look at making recommendations to your class size or the facility size. How big do you want to be? How big can you be? That wait list number, right? We need to evaluate our programs. Are they up to industry standards in terms of the equipment and the facilities? You're going to see here, we do not have locker rooms. We do have our students change into industry attire so that they are practicing that habit of being ready for work. And some of it is for safety as well in automotive and construction. So there was you'll see the limitations for that. And then in 24 here in February, we had another group come in and do an audit related to our Perkins grant and those funds. They did a site visit, they walked around, they noted some of the same issues here in February related to size and state of industry. So the next several photos, I'm just trying to give you an idea of what we're talking about. If you have not been to the center, this is our criminal justice classroom. Again, it's kind of set up here. Part of the program also is law and legal issues. So we have a little mock trial type situation set up here. And this is pretty much the of this classroom. A lot of the materials you see around the outside, the numb man and the bags, we're doing defense tactics, we're doing de-escalation, physical training happening in the program as well. No real storage space for most of it. Another look at this classroom. So on the right, traditional type learning space, and then we'll move some tables and chairs around to be able to do some of the hands-on tactics. They're not in the hallway. Health careers, this is all the same classroom. The pictures on the top here are the lab space. All of our programs have a theory or a classroom space and a lab space. So on top, you'll see the lab, it's a divided wall, two open spaces on either side, and then if you're turning around and look at the direct instruction space on the bottom, this class has anywhere from 15, 17 students. Now that we have the second class of health career, we beefed up that number to about 14 to 15. Pretty busy space. Again, it's pretty tight for health careers. Construction classroom, we have two programs, two spaces for construction. The one pictured here on the top, two photos, it's the same classroom. It's all of our first year students. But the one day, one car garage, I've seen two vehicles in there. I think I've seen three actually at one time just to make it work, but all that equipment has to be pulled out into the driveway. There's some welding booths in the back. We do some welding. You know, students are very interested in welding. A lot of students tell us to sign up for auto just so they can do some welding. This is one of the spaces that we work on. And then bottom photo middle is our construction classroom. The lab itself is huge. It's got a lot of space, but the classroom is probably pretty small for the number of students that could be in the lab. You can see them. Lockers and storage was an area that was noted in the audit. So this is the wait station between our culinary kitchen and the cafe, and then it's also serves with some storage for linens and a locker area for students. So if we look at our facility space as a whole, I found some literature from Frieden and Walter, managing technical programs, and they outlined what they would recommend the number of square feet per student for each of these programs. So the top numbers is the actual square footage that we have in those programs. And in the bottom table is what would be recommended if we were to go to, say, 20 students. We want all of our teachers to have a class of 20. This would be the number of square feet that Frieden and Walter, their literature would say you should have based on the career and tech ed program. So we're pretty short in most of them. Some are close. Construction, like I said, they're pretty generous in their lab space there. But you can see overall, on the next slide, I have what would the actual class size be. So our current class size on the top, and then if we went by those capacity limitations based on that audit, they said, you know, set limits on your class size. If we were to use that literature, these would be the class size we're not using, but just the highlighted ones would obviously be additional wait lists. What does that look like overall? We have 20,000 square feet in all of our programs. Based on those recommendations on the slides previous, we should have about 25,000 square feet. In the feasibility study, you're going to see when Dr. Stuba comes up and starts to talk about some of the phasing options. One of those options includes some renovation and expansion that could give us that 4,970 square feet, which would obviously address some of the issue. And then the new program space could be an additional 10,000 with two new programs. So as we talked about program development over the last 2 years, superintendents were in, we had Penn College in, we went out and looked at some different career and tech centers. We started to look at what are the high priority occupations. When we look at new programs, they have to meet a high priority occupation, the need within our region and our state. We also think about our student interest. We've done a survey with our students, that's been shared with all the districts. We think about opportunities at our sending high schools and try not to compete with something that's being offered. And then we look at our facilities. What can fit within the existing space? Do we need to renovate? Do we need a new project? The programs on the right are the programs that have been identified as either growing, they're already in demand. We see a trend, a projected trend for increased enrollment in our post-secondary universities or within the workforce. So as we started to look at all of these program options, a few of them started to rise to the top. This slide looks at all of the CTC, not all, a few of the CTC programs in our area with all of their programs listed. You can see LICO all the way to the left and the number of programs and the offerings. And as you go across, the schools are at the top. I highlighted these on welding because that is Those are two programs that we're seeing over and over, students want, we're seeing in need in the industry. So I thought this is just good for us to think about our opportunities for students and what they could have versus what opportunities other students have just right here in our region. So we also want to just not say, well, what are our students interested in and what do other programs offer, but what does the workforce say? So we looked at Central WIDA, the Center for Workforce Information Analysis data. I worked with this group. They pulled this workforce data just for our region. So you can see the counties listed here. This chart is just telling you there's an employment change in volume, a projected change over the next 10 years. There's an increase just in that percent, and then the annual demand. We're looking at those three indicators. Welding and diesel meet and check the box on growth and projected growth, percentage, annual demand, and overall increase, as you can see there. And this is just looking at some of those occupations that our students have access to. So these two programs really check the box for the need. We look at annual wage and sustainable living wages. I mean, these are jobs that our students can leave with a certification with no additional training and be able to be hired in any of these occupations. So the second and the last part, I'll ask Dr. Skuluba to walk us through where we've been with our feasibility study and our superintendent meetings. I'll certainly open up for some questions here.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Minnion is passing out a one pager that tries to summarize the last 2 years. So I tried to keep it as quickly as possible. And I'll try to keep my comments as quickly as I possibly can. First, I am the superintendent of record at LIGO CPC. I'm also the superintendent of the Parkson School District. In case you're not aware of the way that LIGO CPC works, it's a participating district. Basically, it goes through cycles through superintendents once every 3 years, basically by alphabetical. So basically, that's how it works. And so we're at Muncie at this particular point in time. And they did extend me for 1 year in case we go somewhere with all of this. So I have 2 years left, and then we move on to looks like East Lake Home and rerun at the East Lake Home. So when the torch was passed over to me as superintendent of record, they said I needed to look at space and programs. Shortly afterwards, we had an audit, and that audit said we had to look at the program. And then shortly after that, we had another audit, and that audit said we needed to look at space and programs. So we really did a minor feasibility study for $2,500, just to kind of get an idea of what things would cost, and we can kind of get feedback of where everything is at. So at the bottom of that first page I gave you was a chart. And that chart kind of shows you the options that we looked at. Really quick, if you look at the picture, where the laser pointer is, maybe not, I'll just go forward to it. So right here is the current LIGO CPC building right here. And then this is the space of LIGO CPC that's in East Lake Home. So we take up some of that space there. This green part here is what we're going to talk about. It's the potential for a building back here. But currently what exists is just this space and this space. And then they also go over to Ashcar Elementary. They have one classroom over there for LIGO campus. So when we looked at, the first thing we looked at is that blue, what is currently LIGO, could be renovated. And you could for about 1.5 million, but it didn't really address any of the space and program areas. So we basically kind of ruled that out as an option. So then you could do a renovation in addition to existing LIGO CP spaces, which would basically take this part right here and extend it out a little bit. But the issue was, this is Ashcar Elementary. And when we were in the process of looking at that, they were going to build a new Ashcar Elementary. Since then, so we couldn't go this way because it didn't meet East Lake Home's plan. But since then, what has happened is that is no longer the way that they're going. And they're going through more of a capital projects plan with a future plan to expand, which would bring that back at some point in time. But at the time, that eliminated option B because it didn't meet East Lake Home. And then there was one where you could do some new construction. You could do some new construction of a couple programs in another area. You could do some new construction of the entire, like the CPC in a different area. But you can kind of see that those costs are like 14, 15, 17 million. And there was really no way that we were going to go there. And then the last option that we kind of looked at was like leasing space somewhere else, like the Lycoming Mall at this particular point in time, just to kind of see if that would have any options. And really what it came down to is East Lycoming and Lyco CPC are pretty much married for life. And the reason they're married for life is because you have the morning session and the afternoon session, but East Lycoming fills the mid-session. So if you take and you go away from the East Lycoming campus, then your enrollment's probably going to drop significantly because you're not going to be able to fill in that mid-session the way that that is. So realistically, we kind of came to it and the board said to me, none of those are going to work. So we need to kind of look at two things. We need to look at reducing costs and besides reducing costs, we need to look for finding ways to be able to see if we can get some money to be able to help bring the cost down as well. So then we did another $10,000 feasibility study, which was basically to kind of figure out which direction we wanted to go. So from that, realistically, yeah. So we decided to break it into phases because you have a bleacher building out in the back, which we showed you. We can now add to this, which we couldn't do before. And then we could also do some renovations here. The cost ultimately is the cost. So we did get it down from like 15 million to 10 million. If you look on the back page where you can kind of see where the overall is. But we kind of broke it into phases to see if we could kind of do it that way. So if you just do the bleacher building, that's $5 million. And then if you do just the addition, that's probably 2.5 to 3. And if you just do the renovation, that's another 2.5. The reason the bleacher building is significant at this time is because when East Lycoming couldn't do the asphalt project, they pivoted to doing capital expenditures plans. And one of the plans that they're going to do is expand their bleachers. And we have a very narrow gap to be able to try to take advantage of that. They have been more than willing to work with us to be able to expand the time frame, so it wasn't something they had to do this year. But really, after football season in 2025, they really want to take care of this project. So it's kind of trying to match these two things up to be the most purposeful and impactful on the program in order to be able to make that happen. So bottom line is, if they go ahead with that project and we miss that opportunity, then you don't have the opportunity, or we don't have the opportunity to put that bleacher building there. And then you'll be back to where some of these more expensive options at that particular point in time. So decided to have flexible options. We decided to try to be no more than $5 million worth of borrowing. And we are working our tails off to be able to talk to as many people as we can to try to look at costs. So we did contract with GSL Consulting. They do for RCAP funding. We do have an application in for $5 million for that RCAP funding. Worst case scenario, we come back in to go ahead and get approval on this. We got no money. We would recommend just the bleacher building for $5 million. Best case scenario, we get $5 million, we max $5 million, we can do the whole thing. Or somewhere in between, you get a middle ground amount, maybe you could do the addition and you could do the bleacher building at that particular point in time. We have talked to our area legislators, Representative Ham. We have met with the aides for local senators, Senator Yaw. We have met with Lycoming County Chamber of Commerce President Jason Fink. We have a meeting coming up with commissioners to see if there's any local funds or state funds or local funds, that county funds that can be used, such as Act 13. We have hopefully more conversations coming up with members of gas companies to try to see what we can do. Our goal is to come back to you with, listen, we did everything we possibly could to try to find money, and hopefully we've also found some of that particular point in time to try to make it as much of a no-brainer as we possibly can. at that time. So we really think the diesel and the welding are the two programs to go after. The reason we think that to go after is because we seem to have a wait list in automotive. And that wait list in automotive, we think can kind of be taken care of because we think some people in automotive really want to be there for the line. And additionally, we think that diesel, I mean, especially in this area, you can get into the agricultural diesel, which I think the kids in this area would absolutely just love. And if we did that and they were able to do the renovations, we would actually add on to the automotive there to be able to expand that capability as well. And the one automotive space that you saw on there, which really probably shouldn't be an automotive space, we would then be able then to look into possibly a new program in the future as well. Good question.
What's your interest from the private sector as far as funding or obtaining funds for this? Given the slide you showed with all the employers there, is there any effort going after them to try to offset some of these costs?
We're in the very beginning. We met with the Chamber of Commerce. We asked him, so he's working on putting us in a room with 10 or 12 gas companies, I believe. We have somebody that if we went down the road and expanded health careers, there's a foundation that possibly does that. So we're in the process of doing it. Our goal would be to come back in, I think in September at some point in time, to be able to take a look at that. But we're in the process of just putting those feelers out, trying to get that, but that's one of our goals. And if you know of anybody, let us know. We've already had, I mean, we've had these additional board meetings, we've had all the other meetings that we talked about, where we will meet with anybody, anywhere, anytime, to be able to try to figure that out. So timeline is fine. So just a little bit on timeline. So in April, I anticipate that the LICO CTC board is going to vote on whether or not to move forward with schematic design and design development, which I really think needs to happen in order to give you all the details, all the specifics of everything to possibly be able to vote. At that point in time, that would finish somewhere in September and October, and that would be the point, would be the go or no go, where we would come to all the boards and we would basically say, all right, are we going for this or are we not going for this? And I've said it at every meeting that I've been to so far. I think it's a magic trick because it's not like just trying to figure out a construction project with one board. This is the magic trick in the fact that you're trying to get 6 boards on the same page. So the magic trick is you got to get LICO CTC board, which has 6 participating members to vote yes by a vote of at least 4 to 2. You then have to get each participating board to vote at least 4 boards to 2 boards to be able to do that. And then the total of all the board members who voted has to be 28 out of 54. 28 board members, the majority out of 54 total members to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
So, but if it were a go point at that point in time, then we would go to construction drawings, bidding, and construction at that particular point in time. Obviously, interest rates change. The early interest rates are about, for $5 million borrowing for 20 years is about $75,000 a year. Is kind of what the cost is at this point in time. We don't know what's going to happen to those over time. Our goal would be to go around getting feedback. The LICO CTC board was very clear that they didn't want to make a decision on this until we had all the feedbacks from all the boards. So we just had a meeting last week, and at that meeting, we went down every single board and all the feedback that we received from every single board. And we have a meeting coming up on Wednesday, and we're going to share the feedback that we get from your board, whether that's in person tonight or whether you want to share with the superintendent and then he provides it to us, however you want to do that. And we are more than welcome to answer any questions you have now, or if you ever have any questions, just feel free to send me an email, give me a call. We will be glad to answer any questions you have.
Dr. Silva, I know right now the program is set up for the kids to have 2 hours every day for instruction. Is there any plan, or are we looking at something where at some point in the kids' senior year that they would, especially the ones who are already plugged into a business in the workforce, is there a plan where they would be able to do like a mini internship or apprenticeship where they would be into the workforce like all day long? Or I know that would have to be coordinated with classes their senior year, but is there a plan that we can be looking at where at least one marking period, they would be out in the workforce all day long?
I'll let Mr. Minnick.
Yeah, sure. So it's certainly, what I'm hearing you say is that can we make that part of the program?
Yeah.
Right now, it's a choice for a
Mhm.
student. I think what we can do prior to that senior year is embed some work experiences. I don't know that it could be a consistent 9 weeks or 18
Yeah.
weeks to pull them out of that program unless there is that commitment and interest from the student, and that would have to be at the senior year. So I know we're looking at trying to set up more job embedded experiences before they get to that point. But we are also working with the school counselors at each of the high schools, I think closer now, and we started these conversations in January to say, here's the list of students that we think that are gonna be seniors from Montoursville that would be a good consideration for co-op.
Mhm.
You know, so counselor, have you heard anything from that student on interest?
Right.
So we're trying to, I think, develop that and open that door for the student to see it. I think they need to see the benefit of
right.
doing it. Which right now we're missing some of that,
And some of those restrictions are based on the program of study that they have to cover, like, as you
Yeah.
can see, some of those are based off of the program requirements of each of the high schools.
Right, yeah, I understand.
But we are also exploring the possibility, we just had the PD secretary, like their CPC, and a great visit, all the superintendents were there. But as we were talking, Jeff Pittman, who's director for CPE, basically was discussing the fact that, the Navy is very interested in the welding and teaching these types of welds, et cetera. So he's gonna get us some information as to, do we partner with the business and really kind of hone in on what that business does and teach that, whether it be the military or something like that. So we're in the very early discussions on that, to be able to try to make something.
This probably would fly well with some of the kids, but what about like a 5-week summer program that would be geared totally toward just that co-op experience?
Certainly something we have to do. Other question?
If you add some programs or new courses, the expansion project, is it going to give you any additional room to allot for any new programs? Or are we going to be looking at expanding somewhere else also?
So I'll let Mr. Rennie talk after me, but so the current project would add diesel and welding, and then it would extend automotive and culinary. And it would also add to the front of the building early childhood, so we could have everybody under one roof rather than them having to go to the elementary school to be able to do that. And then there's also, if that auto was expanded, that auto would then have the possibility to become a program. What that program is, we talked a little bit to Geisinger, about surge tech, we talked a little bit about HVAC, we talked, a little bit more about some of those high priority occupations. And then there's also in the existing building, there's space that used to be, like CTC space that they gave back or stopped leasing. That we're also in conversation with, can we get that back at some point in time to possibly expand? So I think your question is there a chance to expand further?
Right. I know how tight it is down there, so it's like,
There is.
okay.
So I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, glad you brought the question up, the number of students. So in the bleacher building up there, the rectangle welding and diesel, we would see the potential to have 3 sessions happening every day of 20 students each, 20 in the morning, 20 in the middle of the day, 20 at the end. So 60 for each program, 120 seats. We also see with this, so that would be one of the main phase. We want to add programs and add opportunities. If we got funding to expand this 4970 square feet, this would be early childhood up here. Culinary would get bigger, and then we would probably add 1 to 2 automotive bays. So again, that wait list number would come down, we can take more students in auto, we take a few more students in culinary, everybody would be centralized. And as Dr. Stewart said, the big kicker for that third program would be, those pictures you saw of automotive, those kids are now in a newer space, a bigger space, and what do we do with that 2,000 square feet? That can be that would be the
Yeah.
third program, so.
And then we also constantly have conversations as to what can we do to our current programs to modernize them a little bit, whether it be adding drones into criminal justice or whether it be adding cybersecurity into our networks, and kind of see what we can do there. There's conversations about possibly rehab assistant and health careers that we can
Yeah.
possibly do with that. So we're, in addition to looking at this, we're also looking at our current programs and trying to figure out, okay, what can we do to those current programs to be able to either modernize them or expand opportunities.
I have another question. With the health classes that they do, if you have girls who are going through that, who may not want to go on to more advanced medical training or nursing, do you have a connection with the state CEA or certified home health or home aid program that the kids could graduate and then be certified through the state to be home health aides or
Yeah, so,
aides in nursing homes
so the CNA.
or CNA? Yeah.
Most of our students in health careers leave there with. So when you
So
saw
they
the
get that
CFC,
as part of their training now?
they get trained, we get them prepared. Most of them go the summer before their senior year,
Mhm.
sit for that CNA exam, they pass it, and then that senior year, they're out of UPMC guys in there, you know, wherever they're at. So, yeah, CNA is pretty much the
Yeah.
program, you know, that they're being trained for.
Any other questions?
From, you talked about the wait list perspective, and the number of kids that are on the wait list. Is that a new list every year and the openings from graduation? Or how long would a student expect to be on that wait list?
Yeah, so right now, when we go to our projected enrollment, we'll take last year's list, we'll work with the school counselors. If they're on that wait list from last year and they want to still want auto, they're gonna go in. That's also a conversation with the counselor to say, why did they get waitlisted, right? And do you want to give that spot to this student, or do you want to give it to this upcoming sophomore? And now they're juniors, most of them. But
Yeah, I just don't want, I'm thinking of losing interest if you're on a wait list and you have this kid that wants to do something and he's on a wait list and he's saying, oh,
yeah,
it's not gonna happen, and then he goes.
we do take a number of students that come in as a junior, sometimes as a senior for the first year. So I would say definitely, if you're on a wait list, the opportunity is there that following year. Again, I would say as long as you're attending school, you're not in a discipline. Those are the two big things that we're like, you know, can't take the risk on.
I was just gonna say, in regards to the wait list, is there predominantly any district that's heavier on having kids on the wait list or more utilized, or is it pretty evenly distributed? I guess the reason I ask that is like, let's say, you know, you have 20 kids from Williamsport on the wait list, you have 2 kids from Mentorsville, but there's like 30 Williamsport kids already in the program. Like, how do you? I guess that's a question.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's evolved. It used to be like first come, first served. You have your application in, it's in on time.
All right.
All right, your application is a month late. We've kind of taken a step back, and this year we're gonna use an evaluation tool that our board approved, the superintendent approved, everybody that's seen it, that will really kind of give some criteria for where that wait list number ends. And we'll look at that across all, you know, all 4 of our afternoon schools. Like, you know, where are the best, you know, where are the most risk, right? The attendance, people who are not attending school go to the bottom. But I would say, since I've been there in the last 3 years, I'm not seeing one school way up or way down. I would also say a lot of our wait list numbers, and you can see the numbers that we bring and share, we're heavy in the morning.
Right.
The automotive gets really overloaded in the morning. We're on a monthly, you know, they're really trying to get in automotive construction. But in the afternoon, there's not as many wait lists in the afternoon because of that mid-session. That for East Lake coming, if there's not a mid-session, they go in the afternoon. The computers only has 2 classes, use those students in the afternoon. The morning is much more about.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. for your
Thank
time.
you.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My battery.
And if you have any feedback, either directly to them or I'll get it to them if you want to send it to me and I'll forward it on to them.
Great. You want to do it before public comment?
Yeah.
Before you- Yeah, okay.
Just a few other updates for the work session, the mental health grant. Apparently what I taught them about school-based mental health and they accepted because our grant was approved, so that grant, we can move forward with that. I want to give you a 360 review update. I started vetting some of those companies you sent. Picked a couple I really liked. I know I really liked them. Panorama Ed was $12,500 a year for unlimited surveys. Grapevine was $12,000 per survey, and that covered 200 employees. So more expensive than I thought. It might be wise of the board to establish that as one of my goals, to figure out 360 reviews, and I can do the training and we can develop that in-house rather than going out. I got a few more I'm getting numbers on, but rather expensive. I can see why it was a corporate world thing. It's not quite ready for us price-wise. Next up, the free lunch discussion. I have a couple people from nutrition. Randy's here. I don't know enough about it to be able to answer any of your questions, so I brought people that could. I know I want to recommend free lunch for all. That does come with some costs and a small gamble. It's $100,000 cost, but we're dealing with the food service budget, not the general fund. And that is a one-way street. If that goes negative, the general fund supports it. If it stays positive, it can't come back our way. So that's a basic idea of the difference between the food service in general. We can help it out. It can't help us out. So there's money sitting there that we need to spend. I don't know what the deadlines are in spending that. Any deficit that would come from moving to free lunch could be covered by that money. And I think that's all I know about it. So if there are any questions or discussion on that, I'd like to put that on the next agenda for approval, unless there is
If we
some serious objections to it.
If we go to free lunch, is that a one-way street? Like, is that reversible? In 5 years. There's a 5-year commitment.
And I don't think our situation with percentage is going to get better during that 5 years. We've seen a steady increase in our free and reduced lunch percentage.
So the numbers that we had currently that you sent me in excess, is that 600,000 where we sit right now in the cafeteria fund? Is there,
We're profiting this year too.
okay,
So that was as of June 30th,
of last year,
2023.
that was the 600. So have we spent any money out of that on this year? So I'm looking fiscal year, we are at that in June of last
Yeah.
year. What have we spent against that in equipment, upgrades, anything like that? Like, where does it sit right now?
Furniture ended up being over 20.
So we probably spent about 30
Okay.
on the cyber cafe.
And that's all we've spent money on.
Yes.
Do we have coming up, or maybe this goes more out to you, do we have any expectations of things like capital equipment that will need to be replaced in any of the schools that will be coming that could cost us a significant amount of money?
Things could break at any time.
No, and I get that. And
Yeah.
that's why I guess I'm looking at is what is the average age of some of our things that we have, like, And I'm asking, because 600 seems like a lot right now, but you have a few ovens go down or we go do something and
It was quick.
it goes, right,
Expiration.
exactly, and so, not that I don't want. I would love to give free lunch and breakfast to everybody, that'd be fine. But I also don't want us to cut off our nose to spite our face, because I also have a feeling that if we also start giving free lunch to everyone, that I realized during COVID, when my kids were getting free lunch and breakfast, we didn't fund our cafeteria fund as much. So therefore, my kids were not buying, probably better for them. We're not buying all the ice cream and the cookies and everything else, but all of a sudden, like, how did you go through that money so fast? And I look at my God. Which is great, because that's how we have 600,000 extra dollars. But I also know during that time frame, I didn't really put money in, because unless like all of a sudden I got the euro at $4 and I was like, what are you possibly spending? And that we had an ice cream day or whatever it was. So I wonder if we go to having free lunches, that doesn't occur. And then all of a sudden we have ovens and everything. I just, and I don't know, you guys see that, and would you say that that's what you're seeing, is that during that COVID phase, you didn't see as much extra?
Yeah. And the budget that we did build and presented with that 103 loss, that's including that decline.
Okay,
It wasn't like current numbers, we actually went back to 2020 when.
Yeah,
you know
so-
what I mean?
right, because that was exactly where my head went,
Yes,
is that
yes.
having children
Yeah.
who,
Corporately, we see like 15% decrease in all parts, typically.
okay, okay,
I
So-
personally think it's important.
Now, the year they went back to, we started that year hybrid.
Yeah.
So that's why I think I'd mentioned that 100,000 won't.
That's
most
a worst
likely
That's
be
the
a-
worst case scenario.
Won't be 100,000.
I know, I operate in the
We
worst
like to
case
see
scenario,
that.
so
Yeah.
that's, I sort of like to
Barbershop.
live in that world, and then if it's better, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that.
It's always, it always comes in better. That is definitely worst case. As far as equipment, we have a company that comes in that we have a contract with that cleans, checks, repairs as they see stuff before it breaks, where it's not repairable. And then we have replaced some things. When we need it, we always look for grants when we're doing that. We do have, like, when we went with the cyber cafe, we looked for some equipment, tables, stuff that we had, just from changing kitchens around and stuff, and just kind of moved stuff around. So they're really good about that. I think we will see, we've seen free breakfast for everyone. I think we are going to see the free lunches coming probably sooner rather than later also. Right now, the multiplier is 1.6. And, that puts us, our direct cert is 35.16%, and this was on 3/19 that I pulled this information. Our total free and reduced was 39.75, so almost 40% of our population is already on free and reduced. So we do have a little bit of a higher population than what we were traditionally used to in the past, and the majority of that population is a direct certification from the state. It's not coming from applications. It's
That's what I was
coming,
gonna ask.
so they're true numbers, because they're getting other services as well.
Right, that's one of the thing I wanted to ask is how much, where our percentages that's already receiving and how many. Okay.
Other questions, either from nutrition group or? Okay, so that'll be coming to the agenda in April. And finally, Randy has a budget update for you. I think just revenues.
Just revenues. They're short in time to. Okay. Okay. Oh, I didn't pass these out yet. I got a bunch. Okay, so tonight we're just gonna talk about the revenues for the budget, and then we'll work on expenditures at the board meeting in April. We did have a short budget meeting, not really short, but a budget meeting last week, and we went over all the revenues. So, we'll start here with the local revenues. You'll see a little bit. I did this with no real estate tax increase, but you do see a little bit of an increase in real estate tax revenue just because of projects that have been done in the area. The tax bills have went up because of additions and changes in property assessments. So you'll see a $70,000 increase there. Interim taxes, they were a little bit higher for the 22-23 actuals, but they vary anywhere from 3,000 to 20,000. So we just left those at 10,000. Public utility realty tax, that has been coming in just over 16,000 for the last couple of years. So we moved that up $1,000. The payments in lieu of taxes, which is your game lands and stuff like that, comes in between 45 and 46 the last 3 or 4 years. So we left that at the 45,000. Earned income taxes for 22-23 came in just over 4.4 million. We had budgeted 4.1. We were seeing an increase at that time. So we budgeted that up a little bit last year, and we are seeing a consistent trend into this year where it is up over last year again. So I think we are safe to go ahead and budget that at the 4.4 million. So that is an increase of 300,000 there. Real estate transfer taxes, we have been consistently seeing that up over where it had been for the last 3 years. So feel comfortable moving that up into 260,000, which is a $40,000 increase. Delinquent real estate taxes remains pretty consistent, right around 5 to 550. So about 525 is a good projection for that for the 24-25 school year. Earnings on investments. Now, actually, it came in at 440 for 22-23. We have budgeted for this current year 200, which we are going to be up and over that. But for the 24-25 school year, I didn't want to increase that budget too much because earnings on investment is something that can change overnight. There were several years just prior to COVID where we were seeing $10,000 in earnings on our investments. And as our fund balance is getting smaller, we also have less money to be making those earnings. Because remember, this is just the general fund. This does not have capital funds in it. So remember, we're just talking about general fund here. So we just need to be careful because if, we come into a period of time where those interest rates get low again, that's if we budget it too significantly high, then it becomes harder to make up those funds when interest rates do decrease. So, as safety, I did bump it up about 50,000, but I'm not very comfortable going up much further than that at this point. So we have that up a little bit also. Athletic event emissions, usually between 45 and 55,000 over the last few years. So we left that alone. Activity participation fee was up for 22-23 at 13,000. But we did leave that at 10,000 because that was the first year it had been really up that far. Device insurance was at 17.5, which we left that at 18. Those kind of balance each other out. IDA funding, we always we usually budget whatever we received in the prior years. So that was an increase there. The rentals is the people renting the facility to use it for other events. That's usually anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000. We left that at 3,000. Tuition payments, you see a decrease there, and that is because the driver's ed program will not be offered in the 24-25 school year. And that was our tuition payments we received from driver's ed. Miscellaneous revenue, this changes depending on what type of grants we get from foundation, from other donations locally. Some years it's really high, some years it's really low. But typically when these miscellaneous revenues come in, they have a specific purpose where they have to be used for. And it's usually not things that are currently in the budget. So I try to keep this around 20,000 to cover the miscellaneous fines that come in, or the tax cert fees, stuff like that. And those usually come in right around this 20,000. So overall, you're seeing a local increase in revenue of about 460,000. And that is mainly due to the earned income taxes. And that is because, you know, we've seen wages increase over the last couple years, and it's bringing in obviously more revenue into the area. So that's an overview of the local revenue. State revenue. And so the basic ed subsidy, I budgeted at what we're going to be receiving for this year, which is a $434,000 increase. The FICA and the other earned, other income from state are, most of that comes from wages. And when I put this together, I didn't update wages in this. So they're being projected currently at the rate there is for our current wages, because those are reimbursements for taxes that we pay, and for retirement. So for the PSERs, so those you'll see remain just about the same. Tuition payments from the state, that is usually between 30 and 40,000. So we leave that at 35,000. Special ed being budgeted at what we're going to be receiving this year, which is an increase of $43,466. Transportation subsidy, we just got this in, and currently is looking like it is going to be 590,000. So that's an increase of 84,000, and that's due to the fact that we are transporting more outside the district, and our transportation costs have went up. So, you know, just because the revenue goes up, there's usually another side of it where the expenses went up also. And the expense usually does go up more than the revenue, because we only get reimbursed for part of it. Rental and sinking fund payments, that is our Plan Con reimbursements. 22-23 was lower because we had paid off those payments early, and this year for 24-25, we're looking at just under 300,000, which is just a little bit of a decrease there based on what our payments are going to be. Medical and dental services, you see, we were consistently budgeting 34, but the last 3 years we've been coming in closer to 31, so I moved that down to 31. That is based a lot on enrollment numbers and stuff, and our enrollment has really been decreasing, so we've seen that decrease. The property tax reduction allocation, that is what we received for that. So no change there. School safety grant, I don't have anything in there yet. Once we get numbers, we can look at that and make sure we have the cost also associated in the budget with that. PA block grant, that's what their block grant is every year. And then, like I said, the other income from state, that is basically based off of wages. So overall, state revenue increase of $548,235. I will say what has been proposed for the basic ed subsidy and the special education subsidy for next year is not in here. We don't budget those until we know what they are for sure, because we don't know when the budget will be passed and what the final will be. So we always base it on what we're receiving in the prior year. So if they get working on the budget and we have numbers, that will greatly help us. So hopefully that will happen and we can see what we'll actually have. Federal revenue, it's the same way we base it on what we're going to be receiving this year. So it's a change of $1,440. As you see, all the ESSER funding is gone. We've already received all of it. Not all of it has been spent, but it has been received. So that is a cap of our revenue, where it's coming from and what we have. This is what we're allowed to do. We can have our millage rate anywhere between 16.53 and 17.65. I just wanted to throw this out here to show you what the different millage rates are, just for a reference for you, as you're looking forward into the budget in this next coming couple months. And then this is where our fund balance is. I guess I didn't put the updated one up here, but our current fund balance is just under 4 million. And so our projected, we're projected to use 1.2 in the 23-24 budget. And so that will put us down into about 2.3, and I'll fix that and get that posted online, but that should be a 2.3 should be our projected right now for June 30th, 2024. Timeline, we're going to do an expenditure review at the meeting in April. April 23rd, we'll adopt a proposed final budget, which just means we're capping it at that. We can't go up any further than that. And then in May, we'll review changes, tweak things down. And then in June, we'll go ahead and adopt a final budget. Questions?
Just on the ESSER, if we've received all the monies, right?
Yes.
Okay, but we haven't spent them all. So where in the budget does that extra money fall that we haven't spent?
Fund balance.
We have it earmarked or no?
Yes, it has to be spent on stuff that is ESSER's qualifying.
Right, I know that. I'm just wondering, is it, do we have?
It's
How
being-
much do we have?
It's being spent currently on some positions that were left in the budget.
Roughly, there's I don't have the exact number in front of me, so
Okay.
don't bring this back to me later. Roughly 200,000, and we're still going through the monitoring.
Okay,
We have a meeting with them after the break. For technical assistance, so we can get to that final number, but
okay,
it's roughly 200,000.
okay.
Part of that is, gonna be used on some environmental, HVAC controls, which is an allowable expense,
Yeah.
and there are 6, paraprofessional positions still hanging around in the current school year that were paid for with,
Awesome.
ESSER funds, so between those two things, I believe that will use up the remaining monies.
Are those paraprofessionals going to be going forward into the next budget
No.
year?
We do not want any recurring expenses moving forward. The 2 teachers have been absorbed now,
Right,
for retirements, and those will not move forward either
okay,
through
right.
different ways.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Right. All right, moving on to the public comment portion of the agenda. This is for residents and taxpayers who can comment on matters of concern, official action, or deliberating before the board. You will receive a 3-minute unpaused time frame to speak. Anyone interested?
Evening, board members.
Good evening,
Good evening, Mr. Sehel.
After reading over tonight's agenda, as I always do, one thing in particular caught my attention. Out of the 8 agenda items you will be voting on, there's one that hasn't been recommended by the superintendent. It is item 3.3 under general agenda item for approval of volleyball as an official PIAA athletic program at a cost of $70,000 just for the startup. I hope to hear a lot of discussion on this item, including from the superintendent, the reasons why it doesn't get his recommendation. I have to say that I wouldn't recommend it either. The students in our district are not lacking in opportunities to participate in the many sports programs and other extracurricular activities that MASD offers. That 70,000 could be better spent in areas that help improve the education of our students. Thank you.
I have 2 daughters that attend Huntsville High School, one of which happens to be over in your board meeting most board meetings. I would actually also like to ask a little bit about the non-recommendation, but on the flip side of it, and why there isn't any recommendation for it. My daughters have both been interested in volleyball, so I know my younger daughter really brought up the fact that she would like to have more social activities in our area that they can get together with their friends, especially considering COVID. You know, COVID really did a number on a lot of these kids not having that social outlet and going on to their phones. They're not on their phones. They're not on social media. They're out there getting exercise. They're out there learning science. Volleyball is a science. You learn all about angles, body mechanics, all sorts of things. You learn how to be a part of a group. You learn nutrition. You learn, oh my goodness, ladies, do you have anything to say? I have seen a wonderful improvement in their self-esteem, their ability to talk to each other, understand differences, understand different abilities too. I would really like to see volleyball be a part of the sports here at Northville. And I certainly hope that, you know, with the sports that we have, there's not really that many that are geared for the feminine side. We do have a lot of sports that are available for masculine, and I feel that it is very important that women have kind of their own sport at this point. I would like to see that, come to light here, that, you know, I really feel that, I also am not a very good public speaker, but I really feel that, you know, these girls obviously want this program. And these are just a handful of the girls within, I don't know, maybe 4 months that we started a program, a little club at the Y, and within 2 days' notice, we had 35 girls coming. And then when we just put out the day, we had bringing friends. They want to hang out together. They want to have a structured area where they feel safe and compelled to go to, and they're having fun. So I would like to hear a little bit about the recommendation of why it wouldn't.
Hi, I'm Mary Minati. I'm a teacher at Little South Valley. I wasn't prepared to speak tonight. I didn't really know if we were allowed. But I have written letters to all of you, and I appreciate, I did get some feedback. I just want to say, I know budget is always a concern. We will be one of the few schools that doesn't have volleyball, and it is a PHAC recognized sport now. We will be one of the few, it's the only school in the area that doesn't have the sport. I was never really interested in volleyball before until I saw my niece play at Central Mountain. And I'm telling you, they packed the gym. And they have a student section, and it was just awesome to watch. And as far as the money goes, I would just say you can't put a price tag on the emotional advantages and the physical advantages that this sport brings to these girls. And my husband passed away 6 years ago. And I will say that these sports, softball and volleyball, my daughter's on the travel team. She has to travel to Lewisburg. I don't really have the means to do that for the travel team. But I will say that this sport has been the best outlet for her grief. And you can't put a price tag on that. And I know I just don't have a lot more to say other than we travel. And if you don't approve this, then we'll have to travel to Loyal South or another school. And we live in Montour, so I've taught in this district for 30 years. And we want to play volleyball in Montour, so we don't want to have to travel to another school. So I know, like I said, the money, if I could take a cut and pay, I would. I know the budget is at 70,000 right now. I think we can do it cheaper than that. I would be willing to buy my daughter's uniform. I think other parents would as well. We don't need the most expensive volleyballs, the most expensive equipment, and that's $10,500 seems like an outrageous amount to paint lines on a gym floor. I think we can fundraise, you know, we'll do whatever it takes. And I think we have a lot more girls, you know, interested in the sport. It's just an awesome sport. It's a lifelong sport that you can play, and I just hope that you can take a look at things other than, you know, the money at this point. So, thank you.
Right, there's no one else in the room here. We'll go to Zoom to see if anyone has anything that they would like to say. If you do, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, then we will move on to the general agenda items. I would like, if you are good with that, to combine 3.1, 3.2, and 3.4. We'll approve those, and then we'll do 3.3 and have a discussion. If everyone's okay with that, I'll accept the motion to approve those.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns on 3, 1, 2, and 4? All right, hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
All right, 3.3, approval of volleyball as an official PIAA athletic program in junior high, junior varsity and varsity levels at the cost not to exceed $70,000 for startups. Accept a motion. for this.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, so
Put Dave and I down.
Mr. Young, you know.
I got the first
Mr. Myers,
response.
two. There we go. All right. Comments, questions? Now is an opportunity for us to discuss the budget constraints or concerns.
Having moved to approve the motion, I believe any extracurricular activity that we can include the children in a district will be beneficial not only to their well-being, but to their athletic ability as well as their social ability, as was stated here earlier. The more opportunities we can give kids outside of the classroom and keep them busy, the better they will be in obtaining social skills, competitive nature, and learning how nutrition affects their life, as well as the forming of a team and cooperating together in order to achieve a goal. So my opinion on this is that it's an important aspect, whether it be a girl, boy sport, or whatever, that if we have the interest, I believe we should support that for our kids.
I have to say completely. I agree with that as well. I also have to agree with some of the statements from the public on looking at different costs. I know we've had discussions behind the scenes on this, and I feel we can get probably the cost down a little bit more. For all the reasons Dave said, I think that the more we have these kids socializing with each other and the more that there's that team environment and something different, right? So not every kid's a soccer player. I have a soccer player. I would like volleyball too. Everyone's a golfer. The more we can offer that opportunity for these kids to get their heads up and active and moving and with each other, I'm all for it. I see kids in other districts playing volleyball similar to your situation. They love it. There's girls playing volleyball that don't really play a lot of sports, right? That go out for volleyball. And I have friends, girls that they just, they aren't the soccer kid, they aren't the basketball kid, they play volleyball. So I think, in addition to any women's sport is fantastic. It offers another opportunity for our girls. It empowers them. Girls need that. I want us to figure out a way, whether it's through grants and funding, and Todd and I sort of talked about this too. I mean, we go to different foundations. I really wanted to figure out a way to get this, to our girls in the Toursville, and to the point that we are one of the only school districts right now that's not doing it. So I'm off my soapbox. But I talk a lot anyway, so they're used to it.
So I support volleyball and I think it's great that the girls play. I would love to see them have a team. It's not something that I can say yes to right now. And the price tag does matter. I mean, you have to put a price tag, because if we said there's no price tag, we just have to do it all because it all matters, then when you have to pay the piper in the end and the taxpayer has to pay that, then that's what you also have to think about. So as much as I want to see volleyball happen, I just can't say that, yes, next year it's going to happen, unless there is another way where we can raise the funds and we can cut the costs. I'm all for it then. I mean, please, by all means, I think it's awesome. But look, I mean, you heard everybody talking tonight, and it was pretty much all about everyone that needs money. So that's something that has to be considered right now. And I want to see volleyball happen. But I can't with that price tag, and even half of that, we don't even have that right now. So.
I think grant opportunities are out there. I think fundraising opportunities are absolutely out there. I think there's a lot of untapped resources for this particular kind of genre, I guess you would say, or entity. You see a lot of other nonprofits going to fundraisers for this, that, or whatever, but I don't really know too many that want to start up a sports team in the school district. So I think that's something that would probably be eye-opening for some of these these businesses around here that like to kind of help out and give back to the community a little bit. Joy, I want to thank you for spearheading what you did at the Y. So the initial question for us when we first started talking about this was, were we going to have participation or not? And I think we can absolutely see that the participation will be there. The energy in the district when we talk about volleyball is absolutely there. Is there, and I want to, if I can, the comment on the painting the floors, that's not just to paint the floors, we have to drill holes in the floors as well for the nets. And that's for the game nets as well as practice nets and all that stuff. So it's not just for paint. That's for getting the floors and stuff, all that as well too. So yeah, $10,000 for paint's a lot of money. Is there? What's that?
For 4 holes.
6 holes.
6 holes.
6 holes in all the paint.
I just have one question. With those estimates, did we just research this one time? Did we get multiple estimates? Because I would like, to address what you said, because I'm a big budgeter,
Yeah.
I want to know where you got these numbers from, kind of thing.
I'm with you on that. So I'm gonna just say that as well, that's why I have like when I'm looking at a lot of this, I really, and I'm almost gonna say, you're not gonna like this right now, probably say to table, because I would like us to get more estimates and more to get us down. I'm a huge supporter of this. I sort of with Brenda on this. I want to get more bids. I'd like to get.
I'd be happy to help in any way to get this facilitated and done. If you guys need, estimates from people, we have parents that think really well that have kids that are interested in this program. So why don't we listen to parents here, soliciting a contractor that whose daughter wants to play volleyball, or, somebody who does apparel. I'm sure that we know somebody, in our school that does apparel, so that we have the test there. I guess that's where I'm you need shorts and jersey. That's the uniform. We don't need the most expensive volleyballs. We don't need the most expensive. They just want to play, right? Think of the Sandlot movie.
Only if there can be a dog.
Hey, I just want to say, when I first heard about, you guys wanted to start volleyball, 100% for it, and I still 100% for it. The girls been sitting here all night waiting on a decision and stuff. The price tag that came at us is very high, like exceptionally high. You see all the budget constraints you're hearing and stuff. We got to answer the taxpayers too. Times are tough right now in society. There's people out there, they don't have a job. There's people out there, there's working a second job. Some of your parents out there may be doing the same thing. So when taxes go up for things that aren't educational, even though I understand all sports are educational in a way, I'd rather see additional money put into more educational things like STEM and whatever. But with the price tag now, fundraising, whatever we can do with that, however we can help you. If you guys want to do car washes, stuff like that, I'll come out and help you. I promise you that. Because I want to see it start. There's got to be a way to get the money. This is the first discussion on it. So leading up to additional months, maybe next year, the discussion's already out there. So we're already getting prices. The ball's rolling. It's something that we can have at some point, but we got to look at the money, and it's hard to squeeze water out of a rock.
So,
Joy, if I can ask, so this is our deliberation time now? Yeah, so, and typically, we understand your passion in this, and you're giving great info. Make some notes in the second public comment session at the end here, then you can address anything that we may comment, just so we can get this moving along. I think we understand your passion, we certainly do. Well, we're gonna keep this moving.
So can I make a motion to table this tonight?
I'd like to speak this, because I was asked some questions and I would like
Okay.
to answer those questions. So the cost came from, we worked with Williamsport. They started a program about 6 years ago, and we worked with Danville, the AD and the high school principal. And they got their startup costs. And when we got those back, there were things, they didn't have work on their gym floor included in their costs. They didn't include coaches, they didn't include travel, and they didn't include officials. That has to be included when you look at this startup, because it is new money to the budget. I don't have a recommendation. I actually don't have one either way. When I was high school principal, I'd be at the podium there right with you. As superintendent, I have to pay attention to a little bit more, and that includes the taxpayers and where the money's coming from. And right now, I can't make a recommendation because I don't know where, I know where we could get the startup costs. You could pull it from the fund balance, budgetary reserve somewhere. It's that annual cost of roughly $20,000 to $30,000. And that's a real number. Girls soccer costs us 20 grand last year. Boys soccer, that's without junior high. 18 grand, that's without junior high. Same number of matches. So it's going to be in that ballpark. I don't know where that money's coming from without, the budget's not done. We only saw revenues. I have a feeling the expenses are going to exceed that. And I can't make a recommendation either way. My other concern is I hear a lot that we're one of the few schools that does not have it. There is going to be a lot of travel. There are 4 schools in Lycoming County. 8 in PHAC. That triggers the recognition of volleyball being a sport in PHAC. So when it hits 8, it becomes an official sport. So there are 8 schools in PHAC that will have volleyball next year. This year, actually, out of the 19 schools. District 4 has 48 schools. 21 of them have volleyball. There is still going to be the issue of a lot of travel to the northern tier, Athens, Sayre, Gilton, Kawaneski Valley, where you have to put a schedule together to include those. So I would love to see it for our girls, for our student athletes. The benefits of our programs outside of the classroom are tremendous. There's no arguing that. But as superintendent now, not just as principal, I don't know where the money comes from, and I can't just go and ask, Mr. Snow, I'd like to take some from your pocket to pay for this. It just isn't, that's why I don't have a recommendation. So, and it's either way, I know it's wishy-washy, I'm not for or against. My question comes down to that annual cost. Where does that come from? I've reduced it down to 65,000, 41,000 in equipment. And that is kids buying shorts, buying their knee pads. If you want to play volleyball, the board could start with getting the stuff for the gym and run a club sport for right now. There are other ways you could look at it. If you don't want to approve this, so you could move forward with the gym. We could get some cheaper standards to run a club. We could get the cheaper volleyballs. I won't go with steel to cheapen this up because I was at a school, girls got hurt with no steel standards in the holes in the gym floor. You have to go with aluminum, so those do cost a little more. It's an investment. So that, I hope that answers the questions that were asked. I stand by my numbers. Things have increased quite a bit. Could we get some of it cheaper? Probably. We could put it out to bid. All of that takes time. There's no way that's starting next year if you go that route. This was done through one of our vendors that we use for a lot of our stuff. That usually is fair on prices. And that we do get bids from that would get us started for next year. So could I find cheaper prices and put this out to bid? Yes, but you're not having a season next year. So that's all I have on volleyball. I hope that answers the questions that were asked and clears up some of them. And they're not just holes in the floor. You have to, it's the sleeve that goes in, the cap that goes on top. There's a lot to drilling those holes. Okay, so, yep.
Is there a drop dead date? Like,
They were asking last week if we're in or not, so they can put a schedule together. And we're already too late for a schedule, but, the league and District 4 can make that work. By schools dropping each other, we would pick up who they dropped. So we still have some, not a lot. But a little bit of time,
What's a little bit of time?
a couple of weeks till the next board meeting, basically.
That's not a lot of time.
It's not a lot. I don't know what changes between,
How many, do we know how many club teams are out there right now? If we do start with volleyball clubs?
no, and we did check with Loyal Sock to see if we could co-op to get something going for the student athletes. But they make cuts, so they're not even going to do a co-op. They're not interested.
Cause they have so many girls, they have to cut.
Yeah, they cut in a lot of their sports.
Oh, right, so they have to.
We don't typically.
No.
I'm kind of sitting where Brenda and Sharon are. I didn't play volleyball as a sport in school, but we always had family games and neighborhood games and always had a lot of fun playing that with family and friends but I'm kind of in this place where the cost to start up the team, we really need to look at that. And Joy, you said that, you know, the girls would be willing to help and so maybe that's something you all could focus on is starting fundraisers, you know, do things as a group in the community, like every Saturday over the summer and see how much money you could raise. And, you know, put that toward the overall cost to start up a team. Make visits to businesses, see if businesses would willing to donate money for an ad posted somewhere in a booklet or something like that, that they would get recognition for the donations they made. And, you know, I think what I would like to see is how much effort you all would be willing to put into it to get it started. I know all of you are playing at the Y, and I think that's awesome. And the amount of interest that I'm seeing tonight, I think is just amazing. But is there a way that you all can kind of make it your own and run with it? And then we could come alongside and say, wow, this is what they put together. And because we do need to get the price down, we can't do it 80,000. And I think probably there is a better number we can come in at. And what we're presenting tonight really is just one set of numbers from one school district. So I think we need to get more information and more statistics. But I think the idea of, you know, finding somebody who can make your uniforms, you know, I mean, it's little sacrifices like that really make a difference. And then as you go along and, you know, then things can get better, upgrade everything. But, I think we have to look at where we can make those little sacrifices to make it happen. So I'm in favor, but I think I would be willing to, go along with tabling it right now until we get more information, because we really do need that.
So I think the general consensus is that we're supportive of a team. We're just not 100% sure tonight if we can fund that. But we don't want to kill it completely.
Right, no, we don't.
So I think maybe we rescind the motions to approve and then take motions to table to explore other options.
So who was first? And who was
So Mr. Young was first. And then you were second.
You have to rescind it, Dave.
Motion to rescind my original motion.
I second that.
And I make a motion to table.
I second that. Wow.
Okay, any other comments or questions or concerns regarding that before we Vote to approve the shelving of, it was good discussion. Thanks, everybody. All right.
I'm gonna promise the girls I will continue looking at reducing prices. Board members did give me avenues for grants. Dick's Sporting Goods being one of them. Unfortunately, they're not taking applications right now.
Yeah.
But certainly if we can explore grant funds for some of the startup, we will continue to do that.
All right, so all in favor of shelving, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. On that. All right, moving on to section 4, personnel items. I think we can group all of these, 4.1 through 4.4. We'll take a second to look at that, and if you're good with that, I'll take a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, any questions, comments, concerns? As far as you good?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Take, let's see, so we got motions, right? Oh, so, all in favor of approving 4.1 through 4.4, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, the ayes have it on that.
And Dominic Caputo is in the, we don't often get coaches here for their approvals, so congratulations. Okay,
Now we're-
congratulations.
On his crutches.
He walked in on crutches, so I don't know,
I know.
coaching All right, good. Jeez, well, hopefully you get speed.
Welcome aboard.
That's great. All right, that wraps up the personnel items. Moving on to 5.1, our second public comment section. Again, this is for residents and taxpayers to make comments on matters of concern, official action. 3 minutes.
I just want to say that I can understand passion from the student and their parents on creating a volleyball team. Mr. Taramino come up with the perfect solution. And that is create an in-house club. And it would be, there'd still be some cost because of have to have referees for the games and the use of the gym. But what people have to realize is this 70,000, or if it even comes down to make it a PIAA team, that's only a start. And to have a fundraiser to come up with money for the startup only covers the startups. It doesn't cover the recurring costs every year to have another team, another sports team. And I think that our district has multiple extracurricular activities, sports programs for girls and boys. And we're funding those and their reoccurring costs. So is the teams going to, if it's approved to have a PIAA team, is that team every year going to fundraise to pay for those reoccurring costs? Or is it going to be the taxpayers continue to pay for those reoccurring costs? If, like Mr. Taramino said, if it was an in-house club team, the girls would get their interactions, they get their socialization, just like they would as the PIAA page.
Hi, I'm Alicia Heineck. I'm a parent of a child.
Can you state your address, please? Sorry.
Yeah, 8144 Pleasant Valley Road.
Thank you.
Station. And I just wanted to ask a couple questions because everybody's concerned about cost. Everybody's concerned about cost everywhere. We are at home. How much do we cost or pay every year for our football team? For our boys golf team? What's the expense for the football team per year? The numerous coaches and excessive amount of players standing in the sidelines. Top of the line.
We don't typically respond to questions during this part. This is just comment period time frame, but you can talk to us afterwards or send an email to the board or.
What we spend on other sports that you want. Say $70,000 a lot. I guarantee you, we spend a lot more than that on football. A lot more than that on boys golf teams. That's more important than girls volleyball teams. Okay. I did want to address a few of the concerns that you had brought up as far as fundraising, in addition to my annual budget too, because I understand that you need to have an annual budget every year. One of the things that I had actually discussed with the girls is kind of doing an annual fundraiser, where it is a large fundraiser, and what the idea was inviting the entire community for a backyard barbecue here, where we could actually set up the nets that you had, you could do volleyball, have special sponsorships, get everybody together, do food trucks, and kind of run it like a yearly thing in the summertime, so that we would be able to get those funds in a fun community way. So we have actually talked as a group, you know, what we could do for raising funds on a yearly basis. There's also some sessions that we can do for these, when we have the games in our home. We can run concessions, just like football does, just like the band does, to get extra money there. Not only that, but we could also, I don't know what the sponsorship, if we could get sponsorship, are we able to do that at a school level? As far as, so you know how we do the league, you have sponsorships from the businesses in the area, can we do that for the school? For this team?
The booster clubs do, yes. The booster clubs do.
Booster.
Yep.
Okay, so we would we be able to kind of set up a booster club? Is that kind of what this seems like to me we should be doing, especially from what you had said as far as getting together? So maybe kind of set up a volleyball booster club, see what we can get together fundraising wise. My second question was here, can it be off-site? Because the Y already has the volleyball net, the line. Does it have to be on site here, or it doesn't have to be at a certain radius? Can we rent the gym with the volleyball equipment on a yearly basis during the season?
That's something you have to explore outside of here,
Outside of here?
outside of this environment.
Okay, all right. Mr. Tormina, is there anything against having an off-site spot? where we
It just
could
would be availability, busing them there.
Busing.
Yeah, we'd have to get them there. We've had, when we had a swim team, they were like coming to village.
Okay. I think there was also one more thing as far as, other than school, there actually is, a homeschooling volleyball league. They do their own, it's over in Jersey for South Williamsport. I have their information, because I think you were asking as far as, you know, in general, are there other things? There actually is a homeschooling thing that we could,
Look up to.
let you know that that was on, our little topic there that we were talking about. I do love to thank everybody for your time. I know it's been a really long one today. So then, excuse me, again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Me and her, mother of the girls, 431 Malden Street in Portville.
And I just want to say, I don't think I would say it to any of you guys, but just kind of in reference to something that, Mr. Snell said. It's not just about the girls have plenty of other things to socialize, and whatnot. As was mentioned, some girls don't fit in other places. They don't find their niche with other sports. They don't find a niche with other clubs. But volleyball is one where they just they feel like they fit, and I found that true, and that's really, really important. So if there are girls that this is just where they fit in, and it's the only place where they feel they fit in, I think it's pretty important that we, if we possible, that we give them that space. I think it's very, very detrimental. That's all.
Mr. Badger, can I say one more thing?
Yes, of course.
I think something that some of these parents don't understand is, it is the law that we have to give opportunities to both male and female students. It's the law. And Venturesville does a great job doing that, because if they didn't, there'd be some people from government knocking on the door. And to bring up what's spent on football, sure, it's a lot, but that amount of money that's spent on football is also spent on girls' sport. There's got to be a balance. The law requires there has to be a balance between female and male sports in schools.
If you, if we want to continue the conversation, you guys are more than welcome to. Let's give the folks online here an opportunity to wrap it up, and then you guys can discuss it all you want. All right. Right, anyone on Zoom interested in commenting or questions? All right. Seeing none, that concludes the public comment section, and I will take a motion to adjourn. All right, all in favor? Aye, all opposed? All right.
How do I do this without anybody?
No, but actually, like, there's two pieces.
Probably
everything. Bugging me this entire time.
Whole time you're
Every
about like,
time I see
you
it,
plan-
like,
you're
that's
trying to
what's
find-
on it. They're the pieces.
It's different here.
Just trying to find a place to
Without your chair. No, with one, like somebody stuck it up underneath here. And every time I press my legs, I have to stick on it and go like this. and
They
I'm
don't
like,
mind
trying to
recognize.
look, I didn't know how.
They don't, it's
to
not
do it.
policy.